Well, hello everybody. Thanks for joining me again. And if you are tuning in, it must be time for another math video with Mr. Carey. And today we are going to tackle the Chapter 7 review slash test. So again, because the chapter review test is a little long, 6 pages, I've divided up into 3s because I tend to get a little long-winded and explain and basically not only beat the dead horse, I go find another horse and then I beat that dead horse too. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick into it. And let's start with number 1. And then we'll read it, and I do what I like to do, again, highlight important information, and then we'll go through. So number 1, a painter mixed a quarter red paint with 3/4 blue paint to make purple paint. Here's your question. How much purple paint did the painter make? You're probably looking at this and going, they kind of already have the answer. I have basically, if I have a quarter of, here, let me just do it in different colors. If I have a quarter of red paint and then I'm adding 3/4 of blue paint, Mr. Carey, wouldn't that just be 4/4? Yeah, and then look at right there. It even shows us 4/4. So if you write 4/4, I'd be happy with that. But again, understand that 4/4 is the same thing as 1. So basically 1 quart of purple paint. Remember, you go into like Kelly Moore or I don't know, wherever you buy paint, and you say, give me 4/4 of a quart of purple paint. They're gonna look at you like you're a little, maybe a little crazy. Maybe you like math too much. So anyway, yes, very simple. Just look at this. Count it up. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. 4/4 equals 1 whole. All right, pretty easy. Let's go over here to number 2. Ivan biked 1 2/3 hour on Monday, 2 1/3 hour on Tuesday, and 2 2/3 hour on Wednesday. What is the total number of hours? So again, what we are looking for. What is the total number of hours? So we know that we are going to have to use addition. Outstanding. Now, there are a couple ways you can do this, and we're going to kind of go back to chapter 7.9 and 7.10 with our associative properties, but let's go ahead and set it up. So Monday, 1 2/3. Tuesday, 2 1/3. And then Wednesday, 2 2/3. Now, if you really want to, you can just add them all up and then deal with your improper fractions. And this is what it would look like. Let's do the whole numbers first. 1 + 2 + 2 is 5. 2 + 1 + 2 is 5. 5/3. Right? So then what you're going to have to do is, okay, well, this is my improper fraction. And you're going to have to basically take your whole, right, your 3/3 here, and you're going to have to give it to your 5, which then makes it a 6. 5 - 3 equals 2/3. Right? You can do that, and that would be totally fine. And that would be your answer: 6 2/3. I think I need to dial my pen down a little bit. 6 2/3. Right? I'm going to show you an easier way. Right? Why go to all that trouble, especially if you're a little shaky on, converting your improper fractions to mixed numbers? If you're a little shaky on that, I'll show you a different way then. All right, I'm going to erase all this. And watch this. So if I have 3, right, as my denominator, what would be a whole number? What would be 1 if I want to put something over 3? Sure, 3/3. So let's look for our fractions that we know are going to add up to 3/3. So I already spy one. I spy with my little eye this, right? And I'm going to do this one first. I'm going to go 2 1/3 plus 2 2/3. So 1/3 plus 2/3 is 3/3, right? Which is also the same as 1. 2 plus 2 is 4. So I'm left with 4 plus 1 gives me 5. And then I have this little guy over here, 1 2/3, and all I got to do, add it across. 5 plus 1 is 6, and then I have my 2/3 left over. So both ways are fine. It really just depends on how easy you want to make it on yourself. All right, there we go. Now let's go into number 3, Trisha. All right, again, I'm going to highlight my key information here. Trisha had 4 1/8 yard of fabric. When she finished, she had 2 3/8. She said that she used 2 2/8 yard of fabric. Do I agree or do we agree? Explain, right? So do I agree that Trisha used 2 2/8 of fabric for the curtains? So really, all we're going to do here is we're just checking Trisha's work. Now you can do this 2 ways. You can just take her information, right? And I'm going to highlight our important information. She started with this, and then she finished with this. Okay? So what we would just write it like she started 4 1/8, and we're going to subtract, right? Because she used something, so she used it up, so we have to take something away. And then she says she used 2 2/8. So we're trying to find, I'm going to put a question mark, if for those of you that are like, but Mr. Carey, why don't you use algebra? Fine, X, whatever you want to use, right? I'm just going to, for now, let's do a question mark. Okay, a couple different ways you can do this. Let's just figure this out. She says she used, right, here it is. Here's some labels. The total fabric used, and then left over. Okay. Actually, yeah, see, look at that. Mr. Carey's already messing up a little bit. 2 3/8. She had 2 3/8 left. There we go. Okay. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to just check her answer. This is going to be probably the easiest way to do this. So she says she used 2 2/8 of fabric. So let's put 2 2/8 and let's subtract. Let's check our answers, right? So I'm going to erase this. Now, whatever our answer is, this has to match up with that. All right, so let's do it. 4 1/8 minus 2 2/8. Okay, thanks to our little fractions here, right? 1/8 being less than 2/8, we can't subtract yet. So let's go ahead and convert 4 1/8, right? 4 1/8. So then we're just going to change this to 3 9/8. How did I do that? Remember, 4 1/8 is the same as this. 4 1/8 is equal to 8/8 plus 8/8 plus 8/8 plus 8/8 plus my 1/8. Can we agree that I have 4 holes? Sure, 1 hole, 2 hole, 3 hole, 4 hole. And then I have my 1/8 left over. So all I'm doing is I'm just going to take, this little guy right here, and my fraction needs him. He's like, Mr. Carey, you got to help me out, man. So fine, we add our 8/8 to the 4 1/8. So then we have to we're basically taking this away. So now we only have 3, 1, 2, 3. And now we add our 8/8 plus 1/8 gives us 9/8. All right, so that's what we're going to do. And now we can subtract all we want. 3 9/8 minus 2 2/8. What is that? Okay, 9 minus 2 is, right? Why do I keep doing 2? Oh yeah, that's because that's what we're supposed to do. 9 minus 2 is 7/8. Okay. And then what do we have here? We have 3 minus 2 equals 1. Well, how can that be, right? 1 7/8. Well, that's not correct because she should have 2. This number right here is supposed to match up with that. Well, that doesn't make sense. So it looks like that's not right. She had 2 3/8 left. But if we use her number, right, this is her number. She said, I used 2 2/8. Well, if we subtract that from how much she had, she would have 1 7/8 left over, which means had 2 3/8 is not equal to 1 7/8. All right, if that's super confusing, let's do it a different way. So basically, she's not right, and we're going to do it a different way. Way number let's do it this way. I'm going to add the fabric that I have left over. So we did subtracting. Why don't we just add? She said she used this much, right? And this is how much was left. So watch this. If I want to set it up as an equation, I can just add these two together. If I add how much she said she used with how much I have left, that should give me the total, right? So 2 and 2/8 should be, when you add it to 2 and 3/8, I should get something like, I don't know, I should get 4 and 1/8, right? That's how much fabric she started with, so let's add it up. 2/8 plus 3/8 is 5/8. 2 plus 2 is 4. Well, there's a problem, because 4 and 5/8 is not equal to how much she had. This is actually how much she started with. All right, so we need to explain, though. Why do we need to explain? Well, because it says you need to explain right here. Explain, right? If you're in my class and you don't explain, I take a point off. So go ahead and explain, because I need to know that you understand how to do this. Like, I need to know that you know, that I know, that we all know that you know what you're doing. Anyway, so here's a good answer. When I add, I don't know, fabric left over with Trisha's estimate, I have a larger amount of fabric. I have a larger amount of fabric that I started with. For example, it's, right, if we use her estimate, it's 4 and 5/8 instead of the actual number, which is 4 and 1/8. I mean, that right there is your answer, right? You're just checking her work. And it turns out Trisha was wrong. And it doesn't really matter like how much she had really left over. We just need to check her work. So this would be totally fine. This would get you, basically full points right here. All right, let's go to our second page, and we are just cruising through this right now, which is awesome. Boom. All right, and then I got to put my other page up here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom, there it is. Excellent. All right, so let's go through this. Miguel. His class went to the state fair. The fairground is divided into sections. Rides are in 6/10. Rides are 6/10. Games are 2/10, and farm exhibits are 1/10. Obviously, yeah, that doesn't add up to 6 plus 2 plus 1 is 9. We don't really care about what the other section is. Maybe it's food. I don't care. Doesn't matter. All right, we're going to use the model. Here's our question. What fraction of the fairground is rides and games? Well, let's just start shading it in, right? Let's start with our rides. I'll do it blue, right? Rides, 6/10, remember? How do I know? 6/10 right there. Rides, 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10. Let's go to our games. I'm going to change this to, there you go, farm exhibits can be 1/10, right? Let's go to our games. Games are in green, 2/10, 1/10, and 2/10. Really, all you have to do now is just add them up, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8/10, right? The fraction of the fairground with games and rides is 8/10. Now, if you are in my class and you take this test, you can leave it like this and you'll get full credit. If you want some extra points, you're going to go ahead and reduce this fraction, because 8/10 can be reduced. How can we do that? Well, you divide 8/10, divide the top and the bottom. Let's start with, 2. 8 divided by 2 equals 4. 10 divided by 2 equals 5. So it can be 4/5, right? So you can say 8/10 or you can say 4/5 if you want a little bit of extra credit. All right, let's go on to part B. So let's start off with how much greater is the part of the fairground with rides than with farm exhibits. Okay, so how much greater is the part of the fairground? That's what we're looking for. That's our question. Now, key term here. how much greater? So we know we're going to be using our old friend, subtraction. See, there he is. Yay, subtraction. All right, so let's figure this out. With rides, so what, we have to go back up to here. What fraction of the fairground is with the rides? Well, 6/10. So it's going to be 6/10. And then we need to subtract, right? And then what about farm exhibits? Farm exhibits are 1/10. 6/10 minus 1/10 equals, and then we can just go here. Here we go, rides. And then we also have farm. All right, so 6/10 minus 1/10 gives us a relatively simple 5/10. Now, yes, we can absolutely reduce this, right? 5/10. 5 is half of 10, so that means 5/10 is equal to 1/2. All right, but now here's the key thing that many of us are going to forget. Explain how you could use the model, right? How can the model be used? Okay, well, simple way we can just use the model is, and I'll write it here. I can cross out the 6/10, right? I can cross out the 6/10 I shaded in the model. You're not crossing out the 6/10. I would cross out 1/10 from the 6/10, giving me 5/10, right? So all that's just how you're going to use it, right? And it would look something like this, right? So I'll take my red marker. Okay, so if I have 6/10, and let's go ahead and erase our games here. So we're going to do 6/10, and then we're going to have our farm exhibit I have in yellow. So let's go ahead and do that in yellow. 6/10, and then there's, right? So how much greater, is it? How much greater are the rides compared to the farm exhibits? Well, then I would just go through and go, well, here's my rides. Right? My rides are right here. Boom. And I need to really dial that down. So here's my rides, right? And then here is my farm exhibit, right? So all I can do, right? What is the difference? Well, let's cross out the rides. One of the rides. I'm going to use yellow, and I'll use like a really big marker. So if I have 6/10 of my rides, my farm exhibits are that much, right? Well, what's the difference? Well, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/10. That's it. Okay, I think we're well on our way. Let's go ahead. I'm going to move this up a little bit. Perfect. All right, Rita is making some chili. Outstanding. The recipe calls for, here's what we're going to use: 2 3/4 cups of tomatoes, and our answer, or the question that we need to find, or the answer to the question that we need to find. How many cups of tomatoes, written as a fraction greater than 1, are used in the recipe? Well, you know what? It is time for one of Mr. Carey's patented, well, not really, it's patent pending, one of my translations. All right, I love to do this. Translation, because we're going to look at this. 2 3/4 cups of tomatoes. How many cups of tomatoes written as a fraction greater than 1? Like, what is a fraction greater than 1? All right, here we go. A fraction greater than 1. What they want you to do, write 2 3/4 as an improper fraction. That is it, right? Write it as an improper fraction. And now, no, I don't mean a fraction, that doesn't speak with a British accent and drinks tea without its pinky out. Yeah, no. That's pretty... No, stop. Thank you. Okay, settle down, everybody, settle down. It's one of my go-tos with improper fractions. So, how do we do this? How do we write 2 3/4 cups of tomatoes as an improper fraction? I'm going to do it two ways. All right, I'm going to do it kind of the way that is a little bit longer, but it helps to kind of see it. I'll do it in black pen, just so we can see, right? So I'm going to rewrite 2 3/4. All right, so what, I already have my 3/4, right? But what about my 2? Okay, how can I write the number 2, or let's just do the number 1 as a fraction? What over 4? Sure, 4 over 4. And then I have one more, 4 over 4. So, and then all we have to do is just add this up together. 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 plus 4 is 11/4, right? There you go, 11/4. That's your improper fraction. So you're just splitting apart your 2 3/4 into separate fractions. 3/4 plus 4/4 plus 4/4. All right, easy enough. Let's do it as, let's do multiplication. I'm going to do this in, let's do green. All right, so how could I do this as multiplication? Well, let's go back to here, right? Look at this. There's got to be a better way. 4 plus 4 is 8. How can I do that with multiplication? 2 times 4 or 4 times 2, right? Well, let's do that. Let's figure this out. 2 3/4. So what we're going to do, we are going to multiply this first. 2 times 4 is what? 8. And then you add these two. 8 plus 3 equals 11, and then your denominator stays the same. So these are exactly, I won't say exactly the same way. I mean, they are. You're doing the same thing. You're just using addition for one and multiplication for the other. That's it. All right, last one. For this one anyway. Lamar's mom sells sports equipment online. I don't know how she's doing that. Trying to compete with Amazon. That's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be tough. Anyway, that's not what we need to worry about right now. She sold, I need to erase my little toot right there. All right, she sold 9/10 of the sports equipment. Okay. Now, what do we need to find out? Select a way 9/10 can be written as a sum of fractions. As a sum of fractions. Oh, by the way, mark all that apply. Do it. Mark all that up. There's going to be more than one, right? So the cool thing with this is all you have to do is just do addition. Just add it across. So 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. Nope, that's not it. Let's go down to B. 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 3 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So it looks like 9/10. That's exactly what we're looking for. And now let's go 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. Nope, that's not 9/10. And let's go over to D. 4 plus 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. 6 plus 3 is 9. Outstanding. And then we have E. Let's try that. 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 1 is 8, plus 1 is 9, plus 1 is 10. Sorry, that's not 9/10, because remember, that's what we're looking for, 9/10. And let's see the last one. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6, plus 3 is 9. Outstanding. And there you have it, right? We have finished our first video. We finished the first 2 pages of the Chapter 7 review test. And looks like we're doing pretty well. Pretty soon, we keep doing this. You guys are going to be basically black belts in the fighting style of fractions. You've never heard of the fighting style of fractions? Oh, sorry, that's called partial arts. Thank you. Oh, I know. Woo! Anyway, yeah, I know, partial arts, right? Partial arts. Anyway, so that wraps up my video for today. Stay tuned. Look for the next video, right? Look for my next video. Is going to be 2 of 3. We're going to be tackling the next 2. And if you haven't checked out my other videos, or if you even haven't subscribed, hey, you know what? Now is the time to subscribe, right? Keep up to date with what I'm posting up here. It's mostly math, but, sometimes I'll throw in some language arts. If I'm feeling a little saucy, I may even throw in a science or a social studies. Who knows? Anyway, Mr. Carey, signing out. It's been a pleasure, and stay tuned for my next video. See you later.